almost 10 after 10, and that's probably enough time for folks to get logged in and get settled in front of their screen. I want to say thanks to everyone for joining this morning. My name is Scott Levin, Borough Commissioner at the Development Hub. I see a lot of familiar names and attendees. Welcome, everybody. I look forward to seeing all of you in person because it's been an awfully long time. I'm joined today here as well with Noelia Guzman, who is our new program director for the Major Projects Program and a few other things that she's supporting us at the Development Hub. And today's program is pretty self-explanatory, the Major Projects Program. I think we have an agenda. Noelia, if we want to just jump to the next slide, there's an agenda. So we have a couple of hours today. I think we'll spend the first probably hour, I guess, introducing the program to folks, what the program is about. We're also going to do kind of a live hands-on demonstration of how some of the functions work within the system so that folks on the call, your clients, clients on the call, property owners, developers, et cetera, can consider taking part in this program. And then we'll probably leave as much as 45 minutes to an hour for questions. I imagine that we may have some questions come up during the actual demo portion of it where we demonstrate the functionality, and that's certainly encouraged. Folks can use the chat if they want to get questions in. We've got a lot of support on the phone today from members of the operations team here at the Department of Buildings. I want to say thanks to Mike Roman, Diego, who are joining us today as well. Pauline, of course, is joining us, and none other than the Venerable Mark Wellenberg, who most of you have had great positive experiences working with. So do we. So during the presentation, during the I guess the hands-on test drive of it, at least on our side, feel free to get your questions going in the chat. We've got everybody muted. If we get into a good question, what we may do is have the question asker unmuted if folks want to make a comment individually. And then I think in the back end of the meeting, in the last 45 minutes or whatnot, we probably we'll do a much more concerted effort at getting through the questions in the chat. And again, there in that back end, we may open people up to be able to, converse with us, because I think it's probably a little easier than just relying on the chat. Anyway, let's get started. The Major Projects Program, for folks on the phone, may recall, it actually hit our website last year in November, the Department of Buildings website. There was some press that happened, and I think a lot of people had questions at that time, wanted to know what it was about, and from that point forward, the department has been busily doing a lot of things, including resourcing the program, developing the more detailed workflows for the program, how it's actually going to work, and obviously some upgrades to the DOB Now system to be able to support the program. And so we're going to try and touch on a little of those three components today. Subsequent to that, in November, there was a promulgation of a rule. Unfortunately, the number of the rule escapes me, but it's certainly available on our website. That rule was promulgated in, I think, first quarter 2022. That rule established some brief description of the Major Projects Program, which, of course, is a voluntary program. It also describes prescriptive scopes of the types of projects that would be eligible for the program, and it also establishes a fee for that program, in addition to the more about that for folks on the call. If you haven't seen those links on our internet, they're easy to find. You can just search major projects. You'll find a web page. There was some press material that's almost a year old now. You'll also find a link to the rule, or at least the draft of the rule, but the rule is also in the rules section of our website. Feel free to browse that. Noelle, we may want to have the rule available to us, or at least the text, the draft where it talks about the 4 types of scope. So if we can get that staged for the screen, that would be helpful. Because not everybody, some folks might be on their phone. So on the screen right now, let's just talk a little bit about goals and objectives of the program. What the heck is this program? Well, first off, let's talk about goals and objectives. Major projects, as far as that, what that title conjures up in your mind, is just that. It's intended to provide a service package for projects that are large in nature, large in scale. These projects typically have many moving parts, and these projects typically can and do affect multiple properties, not just one. If you're building a new building, a very large new building, anywhere in this city, chances are you're having to, you may have some property purchases you're making. There may be changes happening to the tax lots, the changes to the zoning lot. You may have demolition work that has to precede development, and you may have, most obviously, in dense parts of the city, adjoining property protection requirements that see developers and consultants that support major projects. Their project scope affects multiple properties, and we know you have that scope, but you're going to learn a little today about the department's perspective on that and what we do and don't know about that scope, and how we think being able to share that scope together almost as partners, as a team, could be beneficial to our customers and also beneficial to the department's mandate of ensuring that safe, compliant development, but also that projects like this progress forward well within the mayor's goals of ensuring that the city gets its economy back up and running full speed. Projects like this certainly make a huge contribution to that. I want to mention one other thing. There's been a few other changes at the department that have happened recently that I think are an important component to the Major Projects Program. The Construction Safety Compliance Plan Exam team, for those of you on the call who have been around with old folks like me, a team formerly known as the BEST Squad, at least the plan exam function of it. Not too long ago, the plan exam team that reviews full demolition applications and site safety plan reviews citywide, that team of plan examiners is now part of the Development Hub and therefore part of the Development Bureau as well. What does that mean? I think that was a real smart and positive move that the department made. I think for anyone on this call today, most would agree that development in this city is often preceded by some form of demolition, either partial or full. And therefore, in my point of view, demolition is part of development in this city. People typically don't take things down unless they plan to replace them with something behind it, hot on its heels. And on the constituent side, on the developer side, on the property owner side, and the consulting teams that support those developments, demolition is often part of that overall project. We know that our customers see their projects that way. They have one project plan. There may be multiple stakeholders involved in that, but we do see that once the work begins on that job site, which is often demolition, we recognize that that property owner, that developer intends to keep working until a new development is in place and occupied and able to generate revenue. And I think that's important. And what does that mean? That means that the demolition component and the site safety component that is often involved in major projects is now under one org chart. It's now under the Development Hub. Currently, that has me at the top of that org chart, and that's fine. But I also want to I think it's more important that it's under one organization chart. A couple of other changes that came with it. Most of you have worked in demolition and site safety or well acquainted with former Chief Plan Examiner Eric Jostock of the CSC team. Eric, congratulations, has been recently promoted to Deputy Borough Commissioner of the Development Hub, a well-earned title and promotion for Eric. So not only did the team that he managed come under the Development Hub jurisdiction, Eric's role is now expanding into a full support and full Deputy Borough Commissioner role at the Development Hub. I want to say congratulations also to another Chief Plan Examiner that many of you have probably had good working experience with, and that's Rami Bitar. Rami Bitar is also stepping up as Deputy Borough Commissioner at the Development Hub. So that organization chart, I think, is an important part of the infrastructure support for this new major projects program. I'm just going to jump to the slide now, and let's talk about some goals and objectives. I've got a couple of slides that are getting a little long in the tooth. These slides have been around internally for a long time, and I'm kind of taking them public now. The first two slides here are a little redundant, so I won't read through the whole thing. But look, the three key points at the top I think are really, really, really important. What are the goals and objectives of the major projects program? Well, first and foremost, single point of service for major development projects. What is a single point of service, and how is the department going to try and provide that? Part of the major projects program, the department and the city has invested in not one, not two, not three, but a dozen, 12 dedicated project advocates, 10 project advocates and 2 senior project advocates whose time and energy and job descriptions are dedicated to supporting the major projects program. We have many project advocates here in the department that play multiple roles, certainly TCOs in the boroughs, et cetera, and whatnot. This team of project advocates are dedicated to the major projects program. These people will not simply be taking on more work. They're going to be taking on this work, the major projects program. And what is their role? Their role is to provide that single point of service, that single point of contact for development teams that join this program from the very, very beginning, from before filings begin, through filings, approvals, and well into permits, through construction, through development inspections, through TCOs, all the way through to final COs. A single point of contact. We think that's very, very, very important. These people, you'll recognize a number of them. I'm not going to spend time introducing them, but you'll recognize a number of them. We have 2 senior project advocates that are going to lead these 2 teams. I call them the bookends. One of them is Ekaterina Segal, who has been supporting the Development Hub from project advocacy and the affordable housing team for a number of years now, and has been pivotal in understanding what it means to have someone knowledgeable in what our industry members need and require, and also knowledgeable and to be able to connect the dots internally at the department. Our second senior project advocate is also a very familiar name for folks on the call, Yvonne Cespedes, who has been responsible for effectively creating and leading the high-rise development inspections program over the years. We'll talk a little bit about that too. And so these 2 will each have a team of about 5 project advocates each. So there's a dozen people here to support this program. Single point of service for major development projects, not just through the system, but on the phone and through emails. As we know, we need to be able to provide that point of contact for development teams that join this program. Second point I want to touch on, early customer engagement. I touched on that a little bit regarding demolition, often preceding. For many, many years, this department has bifurcated the demolition and site safety review function and oversight function from the development function. And that's required our customers to have to make those connections. I think it's important to recognize that the development teams on projects of these scales are often developing their project scope and their project plans and their project strategies, in some cases, years before there's ever engagement with the Department of Buildings. I've certainly learned in my 8 years at the Development Hub, I think more than that now, that early engagement really, really matters. For folks on the call who have taken part in Development Hub services over the years, there's a phrase that I often say to our customers. Look, if you have a property owner, if you have a piece of property and you have a sketch, have a consultation, come see us, test your assumptions. So early customer engagement, I think, is really, really important. And we want to give customers the opportunity to share their scope with us as early as possible, and to get that confirmation on what they think they already know, and that's their compliance, their strategy, and the sequencing of their project plan. Because we all know that the schedule of a project plan can make or break a project. We want to be able to give developers more access and more ability to share their scope, share their assumptions, and test those assumptions. Secondly, early customer engagement, which is going to lead into the third point, proactive customer engagement with the department and kicking of the tires, testing those assumptions early. Our experience has been that it improves the quality and accuracy of the submissions once they do start coming into the department. If we can address the questions before you file rather than during your filings, or God forbid, during construction, we know and we think our development customers in this city know that that can make or break a project, both from feasibility, but also the economics of a project. So pro-action is a big part of that. The third point, that leads us to your overall project scope. We're going to talk a little bit today about how the department is created a new function in DOB now that allows development teams and their consultants to be able to share their projected project scope. I use the word projected. Historically, the department doesn't know what you're going to do until you do it. The department has typically been a more passive player in all of this. For folks on the phone here who service development teams as consultants, you know full well that projects on the design and construction side have many, many moving parts. And there's many folks on the call today who over the years have developed a tremendous experience and really value-added function that they bring to their developer clients. And that's being able to take their client's project scope and to be able to translate it into a number of actions that have to happen at the Department of Buildings. And so there are many people out there that use the term filing matrix and these sorts of things. What I call it is project scope. You have a project scope, and that project scope could affect multiple properties. You and your clients know your project scope. We recognize it changes every minute by minute, but you also monitor and track your project scope. You know what you intend to file. You know the permits you intend to take, and you even know the sequence that you'd like to take them in. And we want to be able to provide our customers with an ability to share that scope with us proactively before those individual actions start coming in for review. And we want to be able to share that. For the first time, we want to be able to see your projects the way you see them. You see the big picture. And we as a department have seldom ever seen the big picture. And our goal and our belief is that by sharing and understanding your project scope, we feel that we can align on your project goals and objectives, your project strategies. We can discuss decision points, and we can get those things, we can get that level of agreement, and we can get rid of the mystery, and we can get rid of the misunderstanding or the lack of information that often leads to problems, hiccups, delays, and God forbid accidents. So that's what this is really about, that third point. It's about giving the development teams and their consultants the ability to share their project scope clarity, knowing what's coming before it comes, and allowing you to change that project scope through the life of the project proactively, and keeping the department abreast of what you intend to do, allows the department to be more efficient. It allows us to use our resources more efficiently. It allows us to see all the moving parts of your project as you're planning it out, so we see what's coming, and so that we can use our resources efficiently. We can assign things properly. We can ensure that you're getting the kind of access that you need. So we're going to talk about things like a project scope dashboard, which we're going to share. You and your team are going to see it, and we and our team are going to see it. And it's going to be a bit of a score sheet of how we work together to ensure these projects move forward. Obviously, improved project service levels is part of this. Second subpoint there, smoother project milestone transitions and overlaps. We all know what it means to sign off a demolition, and I want to start my development all at the same time. This program is about being able to work closely on those transitions and milestones through construction as well. Obviously, improve public worker safety. Next slide, Noelia. You know, these two slides are so redundant, I don't know why I keep them both. Project scope management, how are we going to do that? Today, we're going to introduce to you a new project dashboard. I'm going to introduce to you what the word project means, and I'm going to introduce to you that a project can and will affect multiple properties. You know that. All of you on this phone have known that for years. There are plenty of people on the phone right now rolling their eyes. It's like, well, duh, right? But for the department, this is actually helpful. And we believe it's helpful for your side to be able to share that scope. We know you know it, and we want you to be able to share it. We want you to be able to get buy-in from the department early, so that you have predictability on your project as you move forward as well. So we're going to talk about how that project structure, that new project structure, is being introduced into this program. Above job, above bin, and property, project. A project is not a job, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how you engage with us in the Major Projects Program. Everybody, folks who have engaged with the Development Hub over the years have heard of things like consultations that happen before you file. But we're going to expand this concept of project into how the stakeholders of a project, which can be different than the stakeholders of a job, the stakeholders of a project, how they can engage with us in the Major Projects Program as you work your way through the life cycle of a project. Some of these major projects are with us for 5, 6 years, some longer than that. And you need, at the project stakeholder level, to be able to engage with the department. And we're going to talk about how we can use that project dashboard and our team of project advocates to provide the stakeholders of these projects, development teams and their consultants, the access they need to be able to continually access, engage with the department, get the decisions, the guidance, and the direction they need, and the buy-in on their strategies. Assigned project advocates, single point of customer communication. Every major project will have a dedicated project advocate. That will be your single point of contact. For folks who've been working with Development Hub inspections, Yvonne Cespedes manages as many as 300 projects. For those who've engaged with the Development Hub side of things, someone like Ekaterina Segal has engaged with dozens and dozens and dozens of projects. And she does her very, very best to be able to provide access for all of those projects. But now, with 12 people, this is Yvonne and Ekaterina multiplied by 6. That's a lot. That's a lot of support, and that's a lot of access. So a single point of customer communication. From the very, very get-go, from before you ever file, you will know who your project advocate is. And as we move through the project team, you're also going to understand that we have dedicated plan exam resources. We have dedicated inspection resources as we move through the program. You're going to see how this is going to be advantageous to the development teams on these projects, and proactive department oversight. We want to be able to use those interaction points to be able to, once again, get buy-in between the development team and the department as you're moving through the project. So let's keep moving. This slide is kind of silly, but we keep it there. For most folks on the call, we probably understand historically the department has always worked this way. On the left side of the screen, a customer files applications with us. That's your first engagement with the department for years and years and years. Before you file an application with the department, we recognize that property owners and their consultants have been working on their project scopes and on their design or engineering work, be it demolition or development work, for months and months, in some cases years, before those applications come in. And there's an awful lot cast in stone on those project plans by the time applications start getting filed. And that could be any number of applications. Being an architect, I often use the phrase that by the time you're filing an application, the ink is already dry. And in many cases, the fees have already been spent. Assumptions have already been made. And after the applications get filed, plan examination happens. That's your first engagement with the department. That's the department's first look at a project, and we give you responses. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves disagreeing, or we find ourselves running into compliance errors or misassumptions or a lack of understanding of what the strategy is. And let's not forget, file applications is plural, S. There's lots of applications. And we don't know how to assign them. We don't know the overall project scope. And so you and your customers see your project scope, but we just don't. We see a job. We see a filing. We see a permit. Major projects could have dozens and dozens and dozens, in many cases, hundreds of those things, filings and permits, down to the simplest shed, fence, chute, temporary equipment, et cetera, et cetera. This is scope that you and your development teams know, and we're looking to collect information. If I add to that, if we click the next button, for the last more than a decade, the Development Hub has tried to provide development teams with that early engagement, pre-development project scope. We've given, let's back up for a second. We've given folks the opportunity to come and kick the tires on their project early. They file, they talk with someone like Damien Titus, they talk with someone like Rami Bitar, they talk with someone like me. Before me, they talked with someone like Edwin Tang and people like that to try and gain an understanding of their assumptions, predeterminations, these sorts of things, and that's great. That stuff got written down in notebooks. It got put in little SharePoint systems, which aren't even around anymore. And then you'd kick off and all bets were off. And we've done our best to support those projects, but what Major Projects is going to do, now we can hit it, that pre-development consultation, along the top, you can see those points of contact. And they all say pre, well, sort of, right? The idea that at the project level you can engage with us, and you should be engaging with us. And by sharing your project scope with us, even before you file it, we're able to follow through and support you. We're able to see what your project scope is and understand what's coming, when it's going to come, and we're looking to catch the ball. We want to understand what your decision points are ahead of time so that you can get those decisions made, you can get your assumptions confirmed, and you're able to progress smoothly. That slide's a little confusing, but support all the way to final CO. So that's what's a project. Okay, this is kind of a messy slide, but stay with me. You know, it wasn't many months ago that I realized that the word project is actually defined in our building code. It's not in the building code, it's in the administrative code. It's actually in the very first section of our administrative code, 28101.5 project. There's a lot of words to it, but I highlighted what I think is important: one or more buildings. A project can involve one or more buildings or structures and improvements. One or more buildings, one or more buildings. One or more plan work applications. That's sort of an understatement, but more than one application, one or more applications. Construction of new buildings or structures, plural. New buildings, plural, or structures. Or to my previous point, demolition or alteration of existing buildings or structures. A project can include all of that. Everyone on this phone call knows that, but this new program is attempting to allow you to share that overall structure, to help us connect the dots, see the big picture, connect the dots. What else does the project definition include? Different registered design professionals and different application numbers, a whole plethora of them. And the issuance of one or more permits, a whole plethora of them. This department collects more data and information about your projects than just about any department I'm aware of in this nation or on this continent. We're a record-keeping agency, but if you look at those four little totem poles in the chart below, BIN, we all know what a BIN is, a building information number. It's a property, right? It's a BBL, a borough block and lot. And it's a building on a lot. And there could be more than one building on a lot. But whether it was the old BIS system or the fancy new DOB Now system, once you got to BIN, you bumped your head. That's as far as you could go. And under each BIN, there's job, or as the project says, jobs. And under each job, there's multiple filings, multiple work types, multiple permits, etc. But we also know that your project affects multiple properties. So we're going to introduce today in DOB Now a concept called project. A project is not a bin, a project is not a job. A project is a number of things. A project in DOB Now will now have a project number. Project number is not a job number, it's not a bin number. It's a collection of those things. It's all the pieces of everything you see there that makes up your project. We know you have it. Lots of people have things called filing matrices and those sorts of things, filing strategies, moving parts, etc. It's a living document. We know that you update it as you go through the project. We know that changes happen on job sites that require you to file different things and add to these things. We know that projects can even add new properties mid-flight and new bins. I bought the neighbor next door. We're going to do some work there, et cetera, et cetera. So keep this structure in mind as we move through the project. So what's a project? Let's look at an example. Some of you on this call may actually recognize this site. My apologies for that. This was a consultation I had numerous years ago, and I think this job site may actually be a real job site. On the right side of your screen, this is the tax map. That's the Bowery in Manhattan. To the north is Kenmar Street, Broome Street, and Elizabeth. That's a whole block. The red outline is kind of, for most people on the call, relatively obvious. That's a proposed zoning lot. Now, I'm not going to spend time in this meeting talking about what a zoning lot is. Most people on this call know what a zoning lot is, or a proposed zoning lot, a merged zoning lot. In blue, those are tax lots that are included in the zoning lot. There's also a red tax lot that's included in the zoning lot. The blue tax lots, let's say a project team wants to merge those tax lots, and that blue blob is going to be the footprint of their new development. And the red tax lot, well, that's an air rights tax lot. That building's going to stay there, and we're buying the air rights on that. And those property owners are going to get together and declare a zoning lot, and they're going to do some development. Okay, that's a zoning lot. So we now know there's a bunch of lots involved in a project, not just one property or one bin. There's lots of properties involved in a project. So now let's look at the overhead of what all this means. Oops. That's the existing site. Now, for folks on the phone who are professionals in this industry, and I'm not just talking professional design professionals, I'm talking filing representatives, I'm talking developers, and I'm talking about construction professionals as well. That's a dense site, and that's a site made up of lots of moving parts. The buildings with the red dots on top of them, those were our 6 blue lots, or 7, pardon me. Each one of those is a separate lot. Each one of those is a separate bin, and each one of those is going to be demolished. It's going to have its own full demolition application. The building to the far right, that's our air rights parcel. That's in the zoning lot. It's going to stay in place. But what about the building with the purple stuff on it to the left of the screen and to the top of your screen? Those are not in my zoning lot, but the building code wants me to do a few things here. Adjoining property protection. I may have overhead protection. Heck, I may even have to underpin these folks. That impact may happen on my air rights parcel as well, because I'm going to dig a big hole when I demolish these buildings. And so I could have filings, I could have actions at DOB now across a clean dozen number of properties. Now on your side, you see a filing matrix that brings that all together. On our side, we see a bunch of filings. And we don't even see half of those filings until you file them. And so the result has always been a deaf, dumb, and blind regulator that really only knows what you're doing after you've done it. And our job is not to chase you. Our job here in the Major Projects Program is to help you. Our job here is to partner with you, is to know what you want us to know. Because when we all know, we all make fewer mistakes. And that includes the department as well. And we get aligned early while the ink is still wet. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm not even including the bin that you're going to file your new building on here. I think the total is 12 here by the time we're done. Believe it or not, that's my little presentation. That's all I have for slides. That's what a project is in New York City. I haven't even shown you the new building. But that's what a project is. So let me introduce you now to some changes we've made in DOB now. And some changes we've made in the workflow. This is the screen that you all see. And when you've logged into DOB now, we've already logged in, right? You know, when you log in, you might be logging into, depending on who you are, you might be logging in for DOB Now Safety, you might be clicking into Biz Options and DOB Now Build, right? Now, there's a few tabs there that you've already recognized: new building alteration, new work, cranes, et cetera, blah. There's a new tab, pre-development consultation. That's probably going to get renamed because, and you'll understand why, but this is about projects, right? It's going to give you some information about what you can do there, et cetera, and you're going to confirm that you want to continue. You're going to say yes. Now, this is the very beginning. Is it possible for you to show the dashboard real quickly? If I have a dashboard. Now, if I've already submitted some projects, when you log into that spot, you're going to see projects that you're either preparing or submitting, just like historically you've been able to see your jobs that you either are preparing or submitting. So there's a lot that's familiar to folks who are comfortable using DOB now. But let's go back. Let's say you haven't submitted a project yet. This is your first time, right? Again, This looks pretty familiar. So what Noelia clicked on was an ability to create a project from scratch. Now, along the top of the screen, you see that progress indicator. And you're going to see the steps of getting a project entered into the Major Projects program. And you're going to see that I haven't submitted one yet, so I'm pre-filing. This is not a job, everyone. This is not a job. Keep in mind that slide I had. This is not a job. And when it says filing, you're not filing a job. You're preparing a project scope. You're looking to submit a project request. You're going to see a number of steps up there. We're going to talk about today, we're going to get you to scheduling an appointment and actually having an appointment. When I say appointment, that's kind of like our consultation at Development Hub over the years. Currently, yeah, we're going to talk about that when we get there, Mark. So what is a project in DOB now? So in the lead up of this conversation so far, we've talked at a very high level about what a project is in the real world, right? It's the culmination of, it's a design and construction project that many people on this phone are very adept at translating that information, the design, a construction schedule, et cetera, translating it into a number of actions that have to take place at the Department of Buildings. And we all know that the Department of Buildings actions are what they are. And many people on this phone are very, very good and provide a lot of value to their customers in being able to provide that value-added service, being able to look at a customer's project scope, understand it, and then be able to translate it into a projected series of filings and actions at the Department of Buildings over the course of the lifeline, the life cycle of a project. So what is a project made up on the left side of the screen? So you'll notice the minute you engage with a project, that project gets a project number, just like at the job level. Please remember, folks, this is not a job file, it's a project file. But you get a number, and that number will live with the project. We already know that a project can include all of those things we saw on that page. So let's go through the 4 tabs. There's general information, there's project scope, there's documents you can upload, statements and signatures. Most of these things look kind of familiar to you. General information. What is general information? Stakeholders. Project details. A pet name you're going to give the project, and an opportunity to give us all kinds of stuff. To tell us what you can. Now, let me give you a corollary. For folks who have filed at the Development Hub over the years, when you wanted a consultation before you filed things, you filled out a form on our website. It's called the consultation request, and you gave us a lot of this information, or you didn't, and it let you. And when you click submit, that pretty much generated an email, went to someone who used to be named Lisa Fan, who was then named Sabina Nimrod and Natarsia, all fantastic, wonderful people, and these days Shaquille Smith, right? Who would schedule an appointment with, you know, Damien, Rami, or some dope like me, and you'd want to come in and talk about your project. We're asking for a little more information here, not because we're being a pain in the rump, but because we're giving you the opportunity to share your project scope with us. And we recognize you may not know it all at this point, but we think you know more, or at least have a projected concept of what you think it is beforehand. What we want for this consultation and any other consultation through the process is understanding of your whole project scope, and to give you the ability to change and adapt together with us as we move through. Who are the project stakeholders? This looks pretty familiar to you. There's applicants, there's owners, there's filing reps, there's representatives, there's also delegates, similar to what DOB now currently provides for. And this policy here is still open this is a new program. I want to remind everybody on this call, this is a new program. And we're looking to engage with our customers in this program. We're also looking to grow this program. Is this program perfect, soup to nuts on day one? Of course not. this program is going to grow and evolve. And we want it to grow and evolve with input from y'all. That's always been my goal. So these are project stakeholders. These are not job people. This is not a job filing. Keep that in mind. These are project stakeholders. Do we want a registered design professional as part of a project? Yes. Is that new? No. Anytime someone asks for a consultation at the Development Hub, we always said, let's have an applicant, please. Let's have a registered design professional involved because we want to be able to communicate at that level. We recognize you haven't necessarily designed the whole building yet. We also recognize early engagement sometimes means the applicant that comes to this meeting may not actually be the applicant of record on one or many jobs that might follow. But we recognize that. So keep in mind, I see this as a benefit. At the project level, a development team can actually identify project stakeholders. So just like we're identifying, I'm identifying assigned project advocates for you, major project advocates, for you to be able to communicate with. We want a limited number of stakeholders on your side that we can communicate and coordinate with at the project level. This is not the job level, at the project level. That's who the stakeholders are. Please tell us who they are, and that includes the owner. The owner shouldn't be some LLC in the Caymans. We want the owner at the table. And for major projects of this scale, we typically have them, and we encourage them. We want them there. Open arms. We want the owner at the table. They are the decision makers, and we want them part of the conversation. And most players in this town who build at this scale are at the table. And we recognize that the applicant, filing representative, et cetera, do not necessarily have to be the same ones when we start getting to jobs. Just keep that in mind. You can also add delegates, et cetera, as we go. But familiar function. I don't think we have to show it. You know, when you click it, you put the information in, et cetera. All these people have to have DOB now accounts. Is that correct, Mark? Just like before. I don't think I have to go through that now because there's really nothing new to this interface. What else do we have? Add general information, project details. When you fill out a consultation request form today that goes to Shaquille, I usually ask for some information. And when we kick off a consultation, I usually open up the screen on Zola. You know your project, I don't. And I usually start from 20,000 feet, and I want to know, just like we showed on that slide on the Bowery, I want to know, obviously, we want to know the borough, the community board, zoning districts. You have all the zoning districts now. It's a pull down, right? A new function we've added. We have special districts now as well. I believe they're all there. If they're not, let us know. And don't forget, you have the contact in a major projects program. You get to tell our project advocate your thoughts on this program too. We see this as a developing policy program that's here to improve and evolve along with our partners in industry. I want to know what the zoning lot is. We already showed you on that slide. I'm going to ask for affected lots. That's tax lots. What are the lots that are being affected? Right now, you'll notice I titled that zoning lot details. On that slide, we talked about zoning lots, but we also talked about adjoining properties. For now, let's just stick in the zoning lot. Give me the lots that are in play. You see how Noelia took that same project slide, identified the lots. And over here, what you're going to notice when you play with this software and this function, you're going to notice that these fields are not particularly rigid. They're not rules-driven. We didn't want to do that on day one. You can tell us one zoning lot with 2 tax lots. These are alpha and numeric, right? You're sharing information with us. This information is project information. This information is not job information. Just keep that in mind, right? We're also giving you comments boxes all over the place. You can tell us about your zoning lot. Tell us about your zoning lot. The next question I'm asking, zoning lot information, is 1210, the definition of zoning lot. Zoning resolution, section 1210, the definitions, has a nice definition for zoning lot. It's the last one. Z usually comes at the end of the alphabet, the last time I checked. You go all the way to the bottom of the definitions in 1210, and you read zoning lot. And for those of you who haven't read it 14 times today already, I encourage you to spend 5 minutes a day reading that definition. We have whole members of our legal counsel team that have built their careers on that very lengthy and complex definition for what a zoning lot is. A zoning lot is 4 types, A, B, C, or D. I am asking you at the time of project, tell us what you think it is, and click the button. You don't have to be right for the meeting, but read the thing, please, because we'd like to know. Because if it's an existing zoning lot, that changes your zoning analysis. If it's a new merged zoning lot, that changes your zoning analysis. So we know that the design teams and the development teams know this stuff ahead of time, but we'd like you to share it with us. Why? It's really valuable information for us, too, so that we don't lose it and we don't forget it, and we stay aligned with what you're doing. Again, we give you lots of room for comment boxes. On day one, this is a platform for you to share information with us and to be able to communicate with us. And as this program evolves, together with your help, we'll add some more fancy smarts to this thing. Project name description. All that is a pet name. Our experience working with the affordable housing program, as most folks on the call know, that when you get into projects of this nature, many properties are involved. And I have to tell you, from our perspective at the department, we find misunderstanding, miscommunication leads to problems and issues down the line. How many times do I get an email or a phone call, or any member of our team gets an email or a phone call from someone connected to a project that says, oh, this is Stuytown. Oh, this is XYZ development. You know the one. No, I don't know the one. I know a job. And I always say, or our people always say, you got a job number? And everybody's like, I don't know. Let me look that up. But this is that thing. You know the thing. Yeah, you know the thing. We don't know the thing. We want to know the thing. If your client has a name for their development, if this development went through a Euler process, if this development went to BSA, if this development is being financed by some foreign dignitary and it's got a pet name and it's got a marketing name, we want to know that name because we know that the project stakeholders refer their projects with that name. Now that sounds petty coming from me, but I got to tell you, a zoning lot like this has about 9 million addresses. And anytime someone engages with us, we get a different address, a different project name, a different job number. We could be talking about a plumbing issue, and we don't know what the big picture is. Give it a name. You don't have to, but if your client's giving it a name, let's all speak the same language. That's all this is. It's not special. It's just a dumb field. Give it a name. Next is special considerations. What the heck is special considerations? These are important questions. For anyone entering the major projects program, this is the interface you're going to use, right? It's going to ask you anyway, would you like to participate in the major projects program? Just say yes, please. If you say no, it's going to let you proceed, but just say yes, please. There's a hope and dream that we may be able to use this projects platform for other functions here at the Department of Buildings to help us be able to manage scope of other customers' projects as well. Are you in HPD? Are HPD affordable housing units proposed here as part of this project? That's an important question. When you read through the rule, if you haven't already, and I mentioned there's a fee associated. If the only development you're doing as part of this project is an affordable housing project subject to HPD oversight and an HPD regulatory agreement, that fee is different. It's reduced, just like fee equity was a number of years ago. And we'd be seeking a predetermination. And there's a comments field down there. We asked that today in consultation requests as well. For now, that's just a yes, and you can fill in and tell us about your predetermination scope. Just like today, I want you to tell me what you intend to submit for predetermination. We want to know. in the not-too-distant future, as early as potentially first quarter of 2023, determinations will be in DOB now. And I personally and professionally feel that we've built a fairly slick function for that in DOB now. And the major projects program is going to be able to benefit from that at the predetermination level. Because don't forget, you're engaging with us pre-filing, in some cases mid-flight as well. But that's some information. That's just general. What else are you going to give us when you develop a project? The key one today is, we did that, right? No, we did that. Project scope. So the first half of it, this is really the key focus that I want to focus on. This is what's new. That slide that showed project above all those bins that you've got in your project. You've never been able to share this information with us, except in paper or in communication and emails and meetings, and someone says, here, I'll give you my filing matrix, and it's only as good as the day that it was written, and it's stale before we even get it. What is project scope? Well, if you look to the right side, those three horizontal bars, you see three things. It's the top two that really matter. The third one I'm going to talk about, which is going to provide some interesting function down the line, and on day one as well. It's those bins you saw in that slide, those multiple bins that are being affected by this project, right? And there's two types of bins. Pardon me. There's two types of project bins. So up top says project scope information. So project scope, the first thing I want you to do is identify the bins that are affected, that are part of your project. You could have two. You might have one, although most major projects at least have adjoining property protection on somebody. So when you submit a project request and you say, I only have one bin, chances are we're going to say, are you sure? Because chances are you're going to have actions on at least a couple. And because you're going to have a couple of bins in play, there are two types of bins. There are development bins and there are associated bins. Let me define those for you right now. What's a development bin? Affectionately referred to already as a dev bin. What's a development bin? As part of this project, it gets a final certificate of occupancy. Done. That's the definition of a development bin. Now, I'll let that percolate a little bit in your minds. But a project development bin, as part of this project scope, gets a final CO. That could be a new building, could be an alt CO. It might even be an alt CO no work to update the meets and bounds on my adjoining air rights parcel, which, by the way, every one of you on this call want to have a meeting with me and say, Scott, can we file that as an alt too, please? Sometimes, sure, but sometimes not. So if you need a final CO on a bin that's part of your project, that's a development bin. Got it? What's an associated bin? Definition for an associated bin is a bin that you have to perform actions on with the Department of Buildings as part of this project that will not get a final certificate of occupancy as part of this project. Got it? Dev bin gets a final CO. Associated bin doesn't. Easy peasy. Very, very simple definitions to remember. Can you go back to that slide, the PowerPoint slide with the overhead? Okay. Those bins with the red dots on them, full demolitions. Is that a dev bin or an associated bin? Does a bin that's being fully demolished get a final CO at the end of that? No. So a bin that's being demolished is an associated bin. What about those purple buildings with the purple dots on top of them, adjoining property protection? Associated bin. Am I getting a final CO as part of my project for the building next door to me that I have to put overhead protection on? Nope. You're going to understand what that means as we get a little further into this presentation. So dev bin gets final CO, associated bin doesn't. So let's go back to our interface. Let's open up our dev bins. So now I'm preparing this. So the first thing, you want to close out of that for a second? Noelia has already staged a project here, right? So when you first open, you're not going to see the two little light rows that say new building and alteration. You're just going to see add a bin. So when you add a bin, this is what you get. Put in your bin number. Just like DOB now always does, it goes and gets the information, and it kind of pre-populates it, right? Now, for every project bin that you give us, you got to give me a job. And in some cases, you might have to give me more than one job on that bin. But you got to give me at least one. Now, if you pull down that selection, you see some obvious job types. I'm using the phrase job type, new building, Alt-CO. Why? They get COs. Why is there a crane there? Well, I got to hang my crane filing somewhere. At the time of consultation, you may or may not know where that is, but don't worry, you can add it as we work our way through these projects. And so those are your job types right there. So you're going to select one. You're going to give us a job description here. This is not a job filing, everybody. Keep that in mind. Not a job filing. This is not a job description that's going to go populate once you start filing jobs, blah, blah, blah. You're going to tell us what your job scope is here, right? This is a text field. Use it. Don't leave it blank. Tell us about it, please. Not just for the meeting, but so that we keep a record of this together. You're going to learn as we move through this presentation that there's a project dashboard that we share. You see it and we see it. Does the public see the project dashboard? Nope. Only the project stakeholders on your side see the project dashboard, and we see it. And that's helpful. So we know your project scope. Job filings associated with this project have the usual lifespan in DOB now. This is what I call project scope management. This is the big picture. This is Humpty Dumpty before he fell off the wall. Let's keep him on top of the wall, please. And let's not shatter Humpty Dumpty into a million moving parts where nobody knows what's going on except you. So you're going to do that. You're going to give us some information. You can put in a proposed occupancy date if you like, right? You can do that in our current consultation request too, right? And you're going to save it. We already did that. Now, when you put a job in, before you're done with that bin, DOB now is going to say, can you please give us the work types for that job? Now, some of you on the phone have had this conversation with me already, but not all of you. If you're filing a 7-story or a 10-story or an 18 or a 20-story new building, don't tell me that you're just going to file a GCI1. Yes, I'm using DOB now speak. Because you need lots of other stuff. So we're asking you to tell us your projected filings. We know that it's not going to be one applicant filing all that stuff, but we know that you know that your new building, in order for it to get a final CO, is going to need X number of these work types. And so you open that up, and you have a multi-select option here, and you can tell us all the work types that you project filing on this new building. This is not a job filing. This is your project scope. You're telling us we know that at some point we're going to have to file all this stuff. We might not file it on day one, but we think we're going to have to file all this stuff. And part of our conversation is to make sure that we understand your scope. And if you forgot to tell us that you intend to file a standpipe, and you know you need a standpipe, we want you to put it there. And so part of our discussion is going to be, can you please add the standpipe there? Do we all agree you need a standpipe? This helps us get our assumptions correct from the get-go. Let's not wait for a plan exam objection for you to understand that you might need something. And we know you know this stuff. So you're going to click all those, you're going to hit save, and here's what you're going to see. There they all are. So there's my new building bin, and there's the work types that I intend to file on it, including a curb cut someday and a bunch of stuff. Am I going to file that today? Of course not, but I intend to file it. Who's I? The project stakeholders. At the end of the day, at the top of the project stakeholders, there's an owner, there's a developer, there's a cadre of consultants. And we get that the entity that files the general construction with the schedule of occupancy and all that other stuff is obviously very likely not going to be the same applicant that files the sprinkler standpipe work. We understand that. This is about scope. This is not about who's filing what. This is about scope. Tell us the scope. In order for me to get a final CO for my dev bin, the developer owes the Department of Buildings filings of these work types. Got it? That's what this is about. Tell us what you're going to file. Now, you might be rolling your eyes, but guess what? Most of you on this call know this stuff. All we're doing is we're asking you to share your project scope with us. You might have to add jobs to a bin, and you can do that too. You can add existing jobs. We know that sometimes when you engage with us, including at the very start of the major projects program, we may have folks that might want to bring their projects in that they might have already filed. And you can. We know that sometimes when folks are engaging with the major projects plan, that they might have their demos underway. I am hoping with those org chart changes I described earlier that we can get the message out to the development industry that the department recognizes that demolition is indeed part of your development project plan on your side. And we want to give you the door. We want to encourage you. We want to invite you to the table. And we will ensure that the right people in the department, the right experts are there to be able to help field your questions on all of that work. And so if work's already been filed, you have the opportunity to add those job numbers here as well. And I think we showed that. That same function applies to, you may have to add a different job type. Now, you all know at the Development Hub, I'm very, very insistent on, especially with the new wonderful functions in DOB now, filing everything subsequent to the lead development application. And the functions in DOB now let you do that. Long after approval, they let you have more than one GC filing. They let you have all kinds of things. It's a wonderfully flexible platform. We want subsequence wherever possible. But we also know that it is possible and that for every rule, there's an exception. And we know that you are, and you may have genuine reasons why you need to file a separate application that is its own I-1 application on a dev bin or an associated bin. We recognize that, and so you have that ability to do that here. And again, you're not filing applications here, you're telling us the scope. This is the project scope. Associated bin, same thing. What's different here? Let's look at the job type. Oh, well, I add a bin, right? I hit the search. What are my options for job type? You'll notice that final CO jobs are not options here. Yes, you can file alterations. I might be doing adjoining property protection. I might be doing some, I don't know, renovation work on the adjoining property. I might be doing any number of things, but if I don't need a final CO on it, then it's not a dev bin, it's an associated bin. You'll notice full demolition is there as well. Same thing, you hit save and close, and on that job level. And then at the job level, you're going to give us the work type, right? And again, those work types are there. And that's what we want you to do at the job level. And it's kind of self-explanatory. This is not complicated, right? We recognize that your filing matrix might be complicated, but we feel that this is a platform that you can share us what your filing strategy is here. This is not a job. This is your filing strategy. This has not yet taken into account schedule. We want to grow this program with you together to be able to allow you to talk about sequencing as well of these filings as well. And we're going to talk about that in our meetings like we always have, and we might even share some of that information in our comment boxes here so that we all stay honest with it, right? But we might add some more smarts as we go. Currently, the system is not, can I use the word smart? That's not to suggest the system is dumb. Currently, the system is incredibly flexible. This is a table for you to share your scope information with us for what you project to file. And you can make changes to this as you go. And you will have a dedicated project advocate who you will communicate with day in and day out, phone calls, emails, and through this system to be able to ensure that we are looking at the same project scope as we go. The last item here is something very interesting. At the time of preparing a project, we're not asking you to give us anything. Why? Because this is an automated function. Once these projects kick off and start moving, we've now identified a number of bins. Now, those bins are ultimately going to get job filings on them. And I'm going to talk a little later about how those job filings get created, how you create a job filing, the same way you've always made a job filing, but how you and our project advocate team are going to help connect the dots on the job filing that come in and the project scope, where that table of filings that you intend to file is going to start populating with your actual filings. So as we move through the life cycle of a project, this scope management tool is going to help connect the dots from what I intend to file, which is subject to change, to what I actually have filed. And so this tool as a project dashboard becomes a navigator for your side to be able to see all the related actions at DOB related to a project, but also for our side. So that's at the filing level we've been talking about. There's another function. Every one of these bins that we've identified in a project could have other things happen, enforcement-related activities that happen on bins. There are complaints. So you're going to see 3 tabs there. There's complaints, DOB violations, and ECB violations. The system now knows what your project bins are. And if complaints get filed on a project bin, they're going to show up here. Those complaints show up in bins the way they normally do. There's nothing new here, guys. All this is a dashboard. This is a query tool, right? So now we've drawn a box around a series of bins. We're calling them project bins, dev bins, and associated bins. And when things happen on those bins, this project scope tool is going to remind all of us, you and us, hey, something's going on this bin, your project bin. And that includes my project advocates. Hey, project advocate. Hey, Katerina. Hey, Yvonne and your team. One of your projects has a new filing. One of your projects has an enforcement action. Know it. Go look at it. This project dashboard, once we show it to you, is going to prompt you, and it's going to prompt us. Hey, a new filing happened on a project bin. And we're going to work together to keep our project scope clean. Is that new action, that new filing, or that new enforcement action, is it in scope or out of scope of this project? Can we go back to that slide again? On the far right is my air rights property, the one with the green and the purple dot on top of it. So let's say midway through construction, a guy on the 3rd floor of that building files a kitchen renovation. He lives in the building. He's not very happy about the noise you're making next door, and he probably calls 311 a lot. But he's also renovating his kitchen. Now that's an associated bin. It's part of the project. What's the system going to do? It's going to tap the project stakeholders on the shoulder, and it's going to tap the assigned project advocates on the shoulder and say, hey, new filing happened on a project bin on your project. Is it in or out? Now, because you've got that single point of contact with the Department of Buildings who you're going to bug, I know full well that our project advocates are about to become the most popular people in the development industry, just like Yvonne and Katerina already are, right? You're going to be talking to those folks a lot. Something new comes in on a daily basis, right? We want both of you to know that. And if that 3rd floor kitchen renovation on that associated bin comes in, our project tool is going to say, hey, is this part of your project scope? And it's going to bother you until we acknowledge it. So someone like Katerina is going to pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, Joe, in or out? And both of you are going to say, I don't know, what is it? And you're going to be able to click on it. It's a job filing. And you're going to open it up and you're going to see it's a 3rd floor kitchen renovation on an associated project bin. Is that part of the project? Nope. No, it isn't. If it's not part of the project, our project advocate will agree with you and click, falls off the project table. Does the job go away? Of course not. It runs its life in DOB now like any other job. This is a project scope management tool. New filings. This tool helps you and us keep your project scope clean. We know what's in, we know what's out. Misunderstanding and confusion costs time and money, plain and simple. This is a tool that helps us stay on focus. That's at the filing level. for those bins. What about enforcement levels? Complaints happen. Your neighbors are not happy about the noise you're making. Fine, you'll see the complaints are happening, right? Those complaints are already in bids. You can see them every day, but not many of you check. This is a tool that helps you see there's complaints filing in, right? That means there could be inspections happening, right? An inspection happens, right? What else happens? Well, complaints get dispositioned. Complaints get closed out, inspections get closed out. Inspections can be closed out as no action necessary, but inspections can also be closed out as notice of violation. Oh my. Now chances are your team is going to know about a violation on a job site before we do, or before the data gets into the system. But this is not far behind. Let's go back to that slide. So let's say the guy on the third floor on that far right building, that air rights associated bin, chooses to renovate his kitchen without a permit. And his neighbor downstairs is really upset about the flood. And his neighbor calls 311 and files a complaint and this, that, and the other thing, and an inspector goes out and issues work without a permit on a project bin. That's a notice of violation that's now going to show up and might even issue a stop work order on the complaint. Let's go back to the interface. That's going to show up on that table, on your project table. You're going to see it. You're going to know there's a notice of violation there. You're going to know there's a stop work order there. You're going to know that, oh my gosh, the violation is work without a permit. Oh my God, we could have civil penalties, L2s, all kinds of things, right? Is it in or out of scope? That guy's work without a permit violation. Out of scope. It's not part of your project. So therefore, it shouldn't bother you. Now, have we built in some magic function where L2s are going to magically get routed and this, that, and the other thing? Not yet, but we can and we will, right? This is a tool that helps us see what's going on project bins, both on your side and on our side, so that we can communicate. Stop work order happens. If it is related to your project, y'all want immediate action. And guess what? We want that too. The department does not want unsafe conditions on a job site. The department does not want to issue a stop work order. But stop work orders sometimes are necessary. Things happen. This program is not a get out of jail free program. It cannot be. But this is a program about us knowing the same thing you know. This is about us knowing that when things happen, we're able to coordinate. You could have a stop work order on your job site. Our project advocate is now aware. Our project advocate's role is to not just connect the dots for you on the outside, but to connect the dots on the inside as well. Our project advocates their full-time responsibility is to lord over these projects and understand what's going on them and help our customers move forward. Point of contact, who do you call? And how do we get this thing resolved? And can we get back on site ASAP? We can and will help coordinate that. Why? Because we want efficient use of our resources too. We want to be able to work with a coordinated inspection response. We want to be able to know that if something happens, that the resolve of that something can and will happen quickly because it's in your best interest, but it's also in the department's best interest. And so this is a tool at the enforcement level that helps us monitor what's going on these projects, and so that we can help. We can't make things magically go away. That's not what this program is about. But we also know that most of the people on this phone call right now who do engage with these scopes of projects are pros. We know that the development community understands that safety on job sites is not only an imperative, but a lack of safety on job sites costs time and money, not to mention lives. Let's not make mistakes or accidents on job sites cost lives. Of course, we all know that. But let's also work together to ensure that it doesn't cost time and money as well. The resolve of those things, you can and should have an in-house coordinator that helps coordinate. When it's time for a reinspection because your team is ready for reinspection, Your project advocate is going to help coordinate that. Your project advocate is going to put a hard hat on and go out with the inspection team as well. Your project advocate will be there when the discussion happens on the job site to understand who's going to do what and when, and whether you need a reinspection or don't need a reinspection. But you have to do A and B. And once you've done A and B, your project advocate is going to know you've done A and B, and we will see that A and B get reviewed and the issue gets resolved. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to put anyone first in line. We're here to help coordinate. My experience in this department over 16 years is that delays, if you take any delay and you look at its elapsed calendar time, 65% of that delay duration was a result of nobody knew that something had to be done or something was sitting on somebody's desk. And when the wake-up call comes, which usually involves some lobbyist calling some elected, who calls the mayor, who calls some deputy mayor, who calls some commissioner, who calls some deputy commissioner, who calls some dope named Scott and says, what's going on with this job? And I don't know, but I'll go find out. We want to be part of that coordination effort. That's what this is about. Okay, enough said. I got a little high and mighty on that. We're still preparing a project here. Not complicated so far. Supporting documents is a tab that you can and use. You don't have to, right? Sometimes for consultations, you want to be able to prove to someone like me that your assumption about the existing occupancy is correct, and you found some iCard that helps make your argument. You want to talk about it in the meeting. You want to talk about something else. You want to talk about a draft ZRD1. You want to talk about a draft easement or something that you want to talk about and make sure that you're right before you sign it. You can use this. You can upload this. This is at the project level, not a job. This is a project level. This is like the documents we're going to talk about in a meeting. Go back to that slide in the PowerPoint where we had the big arrow. Every time we meet with you along the top of this thing through the duration, we can meet at the project level with the project stakeholders. These are not job meetings, and these are not just pre-filing consultations. Every time we need to get together because there's a reason, a proactive reason, there's a decision point on your side at the project level, which might require coordination across multiple jobs, across multiple properties. That decision point, we want to engage with you at the project level. So those meetings are called project meetings. And we can have them throughout the lifespan of the project. And you and your dedicated project advocate are going to agree, wow, yeah, this is an interesting decision point. We need to get Scott on that call. We need to get Gus Sarakis on that call. We need to get our new Deputy Commissioner of Enforcement, Joe Esposito, on that call. This is really important. And that's what the project scope is about. There's a decision point, there's something. Let's go back again. So that's what those documents are about. You can upload things. Statements and signatures. For now, this is the applicant. Same attestation we've always had. We recognize there can and will be open questions on who can sign for the submission of the project. For now, this is what it is. This is not new. I typically want a registered design professional in our consultation meetings. It doesn't have to, often our consultations happen long before you've even hired the actual architect. And we have other architects that join or other engineers that join. But this is a project stakeholder. Can project stakeholders change over the life of a project? Yeah, they can. But we're looking for consistency from the project team. And I am speaking to the developers here because they're the top of the food chain here. They're also the decision makers. But for now, that's the attestation, right? So now you've done all that stuff and you've saved it. That's your project scope. It didn't take you long. We've tested this with a few folks already. It really doesn't take long to put this thing in. And then it's going to ask you, are you sure? And you say, sure. And you say yes. And then when you do say yes, well, we're going to say no now because we've staged a few things, right? Here's what happens. So it submits. So when you submitted, that little bar along the top says that the ball's in my court. Now, you all have been working with DOB now for a long time. And you know that one of the fundamental concepts of DOB now is whose court is the ball in. If the ball's in your court, you can make changes to stuff. That's one of the greatest things about DOB now. You guys do your own data entry. It's not a job, people, just to remind you, right? But the ball's got to be in your court. And this little thing, just like at the job level, tells you, right, where are we? Who's got the ball? I got the ball, right? Pending project advocate assignment. Who does that go to? Those two people I told you, my bookends, Katerina Segal and Yvonne Cespedes, right? Senior project advocate team. They have their teams. They know the capacity of their teams. They know the capability of their project advocates, right? And they look at your scope, and they're going to assign it to the appropriate project advocate on their team. And they all sit together. Yes, they all sit together. We're all one big happy family. So when they assign it, it changes to this. Now, don't be surprised if Yvonne picks up the phone and calls you and says, what? Why? That's a good thing. We want you talking to someone like Yvonne. We want you talking to someone like Katerina. Why? Because that's really valuable. And if one of those two people are calling you, it's because they just want to make sure they understand what you've given us. And they want to make sure that they're aligned with you and they understand what we need to talk about in our consultation meeting, whether it's the first time we engage with you or the umpteenth time we engage with you at this project. This is like getting the agenda right for a meeting. What are we going to talk about? What are your questions? What are your issues? What are your concerns, right? So you might get a question, right? But chances are they're not going to spend too much time on it because they want to make sure that you're getting the right project advocate. It's going to get assigned. The project advocate's going to look at it. That shouldn't take very long, by the way. It should happen almost instantly. But you're going to get a project advocate, right? Now, wait a minute. Go back to the dashboard. No, this is okay. So I submitted. The ball's in my court still, right? Project advocate is reviewing. While the ball is in my court, what does your dashboard look like? Remember when you logged into DOB Now and that new thing that we're going to change the name where it says pre-development consultation, blah, 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 request? This is your project function, right? And so Noelia has staged any number of projects here, right? Just like you all might, because you're all going to say the major projects program sure sounds great and we want to take part. And so you're going to have any number of projects. Projects have project numbers. And this tool on your side, each of you, gives you the projects that you're related to. Now, for applicants, for registered design professionals on the call or filing reps on the call, you might be a project stakeholder on more than one project. For ownership on the call today, you might be the owner, project stakeholder on a number of different projects. Each of you has your own dashboard. That's not new. That's how DOB Now has always worked. It's a CRM, a customer relationship manager. You have this function. So now you have a list of jobs. I have my jobs. I have my stuff. I have my this. Now I have my projects. And so when you go into it, these are your projects. And this table tells you all of your projects. There's your project number, right? There's your pet name. We're all using the pet name, right? You're going to see the status of the project. Status of the project is not the status of your job. Status of the project is that flow that we showed along the top, right? This thing can get added to. We can tweak this, and we want to hear your opinions, and we want to, we want to get input from you and all that other stuff. But this is your dashboard, right? So, but when you pick one of those projects, which Noelia is going to do, you open it from that, and there's your status, right? Now, project advocate review. What's our project advocate doing? They, on our side, are looking at something that looks kind of like this. Do we have our side? This is something that I think is really, really, really important. For those of you on the call who've, worked with the Department of Buildings over the years, utilizing the BIS system, and engaging with our plan examiners and whatnot, and our inspection groups and whatnot, by coming to the department, in-person appointments, and sitting with our plan examiners and partnering with them, helping them. You might be looking at addressing required items or something, right? And for some of you well-seasoned old-timers on the call, right, we all know the game. You know what a green screen looks like, a BIS green screen looks like, and you actually, in many cases, are helping, right? And what's the scenario? You're looking over the plan examiner's shoulder, looking at required items. It's like, no, not this one. Keep going. Keep going. There it is. There it is. All right. The project advocate, and the plan examiner can see it, blah, blah, blah. So we want to show you what our side looks like of the CRM, right? Why? Because you and your project advocate are going to be working closely together. Project advocates see, and by the way, it doesn't look nearly as pretty on our side as on your side. Very similar to the old green screen, right? So they see your bins. There's the development bins, right? Roll that up again. So there's my development bins. There's the associated bins. They're going to open up your new building. Let's go up to the dev bin. They're going to open up your new building. If all you put there was GC and nothing else, guess what? Project advocate's going to call you. They're going to send an email, right? They're going to engage with you. So you know who your project advocate is. We haven't even, it's assigned, right? They're going to call you. They're going to pick up the phone. They're going to find out, hey, how come you didn't put that in there? Like, let's have a good meeting. Let's have a productive meeting, right? Can you put a little more of that stuff in there, right? That's fine. And this is a learning curve, right? You guys are going to learn some of the stuff that guys like me, guys like Eric Jostock, guys like Rami Bitar actually would like to know so we can have a really productive meeting. This is not about us being a pain in the rump. This is about us trying to learn. This is about us trying to get where you are. You know your project. We don't. We want to know your project. We want to see it the same way you do. And believe it or not, we actually want to agree with you. That has always been my motto. And where we don't agree, we want to get to the heart of it fast. We want you to have decision points and guidance before the ink is dry, right? So your project advocate might say, can you give me a little more here, please, right? The associated bins, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to look, right? And the other thing, what's the project advocate going to do? They're going to open up Zola just like I do in a consultation meeting because we haven't seen this before. They're going to look at your bins, your blocks, your lots. I think we can see the lots that are affected, all that stuff you gave us. And they're going to turn on Zola, and they're going to see the job site just like you do today, just like I do in the meeting, right? And they're going to look at it, and they're going to say, oh, that's cool. And chances are, the first or second time you use this thing, you're going to get it all right. And they're going to schedule an appointment, just like Shaquille does today. They're going to schedule a consultation appointment. They're going to schedule it, right? Because you guys did your job. You did a nice job. You got all that lovely information. We know it's all subject to change, but you're going to give us your project scope as you know it today. And that includes some filings that may have already left the barn and some that you're pretty sure you're going to need. And we're not entirely sure. And part of our meeting is we want to talk about what filings we think we need, right? And so that way the project advocate, who, by the way, is dedicated to this project, it's not poor Shaquille, who's got 787,000 things to do that day, right? They're going to engage with you, right? This is helpful stuff, right? So let's say that we do want you to add some information. And let's say they're talking to Jane, the expediter, or filing rep, or to Mario, the applicant of record, who happens to be on the phone, right, with the applicant. And they say, oh, yeah, okay, I agree, they're project advocate. Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, we'll add it. It takes 2 seconds. Can you give me the ball back? We all know the game in DOB now, right? You can't fix anything unless we give you the ball back. Let's go back to the thing with the other thing. Yeah. So project advocate review. If the ball is not in your court, it's in mine, right? There's a red exclamation mark there, but hold on a second, right? So in order for the advocate to give you the ball back, he, she, we all know that they're going to call, they're going to talk to you. There's going to be emails. One of the biggest concerns, I can't talk to someone. You can talk to someone in this program, folks. You know, the dedicated person that you can talk to, right? We want to talk about this. Where are we going? We want to talk about this stuff, right? So you are going to talk about this stuff. And chances are you're going to know, oh, okay. Sam, the project advocate, really wants me to add this. That's fine, I'll add it. Can you give me the ball back? Sure. So here's what Sam's going to do. Sam's got to disposition his or her review, right? So believe it or not, he's going to add an objection. We're probably going to change that word to comment because we don't want to confuse things. But no, we're not going to write a bunch of objections and blah, 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 and all this stuff. This is just the function for us to give you the ball back. We're going to talk about what you can add. We're going to send an email. You know what to do, right? And then we're going to add one little objection or maybe two or whatever, right? Now, why else do we add an objection, right? Sam, the project advocate, might go on vacation next week, but Bill is going to back him up while he's gone. And we gave you the ball back, and you guys are going to do it, and you're going to resubmit, and not resubmit, you're going to fix it, and then we're going to schedule the consultation, right? So we're going to put a little note in. We're calling it an objection for now. We'll probably call it a comment later, right? And then the project advocate is going to mark it incomplete. We're going to say, okay. You're going to get a bunch of emails. You're going to get notifications, just like DOB now always does. All the project stakeholders are going to get notifications. This is not a job, folks. Not a job, right? And you're going to go in and fix it. It's going to take you 5 seconds. But you're going to get that red exclamation mark. So now you can go in and make the change. You go in, you add the thing that Sam asked for, right? You're going to do it. You're going to do what you're going to do. You're going to go to that objection, and you're going to resolve the objection. I did what Sam asked me to do, right? Give me a little more than that. That's fine. You're just going to tell us I did it, fine. Just like when Shaquille asked you, can you give me a little more information, please, right? That's what this is about, right? And it's going to keep track of it, right? Not for bad reasons, for good reasons, so we don't forget. When we forget, when we miss things, and when we said we're going to do something and we don't do it, that's a problem, right? So you've got us here, right? So we said we were going to do something. You said you were going to do something. So now you did it, right? And then when you click save, then you got to do this thing and everything. And when you click save, right, it goes back in, right? And now Sam is going to look at it and Sam say, yep, they did it, right? And then what's Sam going to do? Sam's going to schedule your meeting, consultation meeting before you file, or your meeting midway through the project, right? Sam's going to do it, right? Why do you need a meeting midway through the project? Because we're making a change to the project scope, right? And we're going to talk about that in a second, too. But what's Project Advocate going to do? Now you fixed it. Just like any job is not a job. They're going to accept that you resolved it, right? They're going to go and schedule an appointment. When they schedule an appointment, default is that the project stakeholders all get added to that appointment. If they don't all have to go, that's fine, but at least they know that there's an appointment, right? Project appointment, this is not a job appointment, this is a project meeting, right? And on our side, we can add whoever we want on our side. It's not just an examiner, it's not just a project advocate. The project advocate can add whoever they want. Hey, we're talking about our demo means and methods. We need to jump the cocoon. We're going to do this. We need to descend the cocoon. We're going to do all of this stuff, blah, blah, blah. We really need Eric Jones-Stunk in the meeting. Can we get him there, please? Yeah, we can. Hey, we're talking about an enforcement action here. We really need, can we get a meeting too sweet? And we think we need so-and-so there, and our advocate agrees, and we're going to get so-and-so, and we're going to bring the right people from the department to these meetings. And that's what this is about. We're going to schedule the meeting. We're going to make sure you bring the right people. We're going to make sure we bring the right people. We're going to make sure we know what your scope is. We know what your questions are, your issues, so that we actually get work done in those meetings. That's what matters. Those meetings are going to be an hour. They can be longer than that if they need to be. They can be shorter than that if they need to be. We can do whatever we want. The project advocate is going to schedule it. You're going to see it in your project dashboard that it's scheduled. Where's the link to the meeting, you're going to ask. Let me answer that 2 ways. Can it be in person? You bet. Commissioner Ulrich made it very clear that this department is open for business, and that means in-person business as well, and that includes the Development Hub. You want to meet in person? You bet. Come on in person. If you want some people to join on WebEx or whatever it is, you can do that too. You can do whatever you like, but let us know. If we don't know, we can't service you, right? So let us know. We might not agree all the time, but I try to get to yes when I can, right? But we want to make sure the right people are there. So your meeting's going to get scheduled. It's going to appear here in your dashboard. I went to my dashboard. I opened my project. I can see that up along the top, I can see the appointment's now scheduled, and I can see when the appointment is. You're going to notice the link for the meeting. Let's say it's a go-to meeting. Let's say that's what you want. You're going to notice the link isn't here. Where's the link? On day one, the link is still in the Outlook calendar appointment that you're going to get. Our advocates are coordinating that. That's not new, and it is the department's intent to fix that. As we move and evolve this system, and not just major projects, but the system as a whole, we want links for your meetings right here. We want you to be able to do everything on your project from right here. That's our goal. That's our dream. So now we've scheduled an appointment. So now let's have an appointment. In person, online, both, whatever the case may be, we have an appointment. What's new about that? Nothing. We have a consultation meeting. Someone like me is there, someone like you is there, and your client is there, and we talk about the stuff. We answer your questions, just like consultations have always done. We've got a better tool now to know what we're talking about. We can all see the tool while we're meeting, and we're not fumbling around, right? We actually know ahead of time. The project advocate has already found out from you what your key questions are in the meeting. Heck, we can run those down. Their job is to run some of those down so that we can come to those meetings with answers. That's important. You shouldn't waste all your time in meetings all day long. And the last thing we should ever have is a meeting where I end the meeting saying, I'll get back to you. I hate saying that. That's the worst thing I ever say. I hate that. Well, aside from no. But I actually would rather say yes or no. I want to give you an answer, and you want it too. Look, an answer is more important, even if it's not the answer you wanted. It's more important to get an answer than to be told, I'll get back to you. But if someone asks for a meeting, we don't know what the meeting's for. We get together and we talk about something, and you show it to me for the first time, and I don't know what the heck you're talking about, and I have to run it down. That's no good. And it makes me look like a dope, which, let's face it, that's not far from the truth. But sometimes your questions are complicated, and if we can run that stuff down before, that's really helpful. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a meeting. At the end of the meeting, our consultation meeting, whether it's the beginning or whether it's at the end or midway through the life of a project, right? We're going to disposition the meeting, right? So what do? At the beginning, right, it's going to be okay to file, get started. Go ahead, knock yourself out, start filing. We see your scope, we understand it, start filing. We see some of your filings have already taken place, and we see them there in the project scope. That's fine. Carry on, keep filing. That filing could be, I'm not ready for demo yet. We're doing soft demo in the building because we're still swinging people out. We're doing abatement, we're doing this, but I already know what you project your bins to be. I already know a lot about your scope now, and we have it together now. We see what you think you're going to file. Can you change that mid-flight? Sure, we'll talk about that too. But knock yourself out, okay to file, right? We answer your questions, blah, blah, blah. What about if you're not okay to file? I don't want to do that. But we have that function. It's the same old thing. We talk about it in the meeting. It turns out in the meeting that you guys really, really didn't want to have to file X or Y. I'm just going to use an example, stamp height. It's not a very good example, but we really didn't think we needed it. We talk about it. We open the book. We see that you actually need it. You get your decision. And we say, okay, can you please go back and add that to the thing, right? And as soon as you do that, right, project advocate's going to tell you, okay, to file, knock yourself out, right? So that's how we disposition a consultation, right? Whether it's at the beginning or whether it's at the end, right? So that's great. You're okay to file. Great. You kick off. You start filing, right? So remember I talked about your project dashboard. This is your project dashboard, right? So how do I file an application? There's really two ways you file an application for a project, right? Well, first off, how do I file a job in DOB now? Nothing's changed. The real question is how do I associate a job with a project? Well, the system's going to help you do that. So if you're the project stakeholder team that's actually going to prepare the filings, let's say, right? You've got your projects here in your project dashboard, and I can go to my project, and the button on the left let me view the thing, right? But this little pull down that Noelia is showing you, I can actually create a new job filing associated with this project. You're already helping DOB now understand that this is truly a job that's part of your project. So it's going to go through the usual thing, right? It already knows what project it's associated with because you picked it off your dashboard, right? And then you go about your business. You file a job, nothing new. You file a job, right? I do a job filing, I do this, I do that. So if you pick it off that list, right, you've already told DOB now it's associated with this project. That's great, right? You're going to pick one of the project bins. If you pick a bin that's not a project bin, the system's going to remind you, that's not a project bin. How do you file a job that's part of a project that's not on a project bin? Oops. Right. So you see where we're going with that, right? Relatively simple, right? Now, let's say that you don't file a job off of this project dashboard. You just do the old added job thing, right? So now, I got to see what it does. It's asking you questions, just like DOB now has always done, right? You're going to see some new questions there, right? I think everybody's going to see some new questions there, right? Remember our third floor kitchen reno guy, right? He's just going to file a job. That's all he's going to do. It's one of your project bins. It might not be your property, but it's one of your project bins, right? We all know how good those relationships go sometimes, right? So when that guy or gal files a job, this question is going to come up. They're going to say, is this application for a project, right? Well, that guy doesn't know what that means. He's going to say, no, I don't know what project is. He's going to say no, right? If he makes a mistake and says yes, it's going to ask, what's the project? Well, he doesn't know because he doesn't see your project dashboard. He doesn't know what that means. He has no idea what that means. And even if he does know what it means, he can't see it because they're not his project. He's not a stakeholder on the project. Got it? So, but if you are a stakeholder on the project and you found yourself clicking add a job, which I would prefer you add a job from your project dashboard, but that's fine. If you don't, we can still get you. If you remember, oh, yeah, that's right, this is part of a project, right? You can put it in. You can tell us what the project number is, and it's going to do the same old thing, right? It's going to say, okay, right? And you're going to file it, right? And if it's the wrong bin, the whole thing, same old thing, right? So that is the function that helps you and helps us on our side see how these jobs start to get connected. Now, when those jobs get filed, right, it's going to help update that scope table. I don't know, did we stage any of those? Have we seen that yet? We haven't. I'm sorry, on the call right now, I haven't gotten a stage that would help you.
But nothing they can be able to do here. View.
Okay, so we're going to go to this view for a second, right? So now you're filing jobs, right? So we've explored. I'm looking at the time. I want to see. Oh, gee, look at that, 5 to 12. We're right about where we need to be. So now you're filing applications, right? Okay, file, right? You're making changes. You're doing stuff, blah, 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 right? There's another button here that all the project stakeholders on your side, and of course folks on our side can see, right? That when you click on that, this is something that we think is a little raw to start, but it's a concept and we think it's a really good idea. This is a project view dashboard for you, right? At an individual project, right? So you'll notice that your project number on the left side, it's sort of like an executive summary of the project, right? So there's my location information, right? There's my pre-dev consultation scope, right? Blah, blah, blah. That's my project scope down there, right? I can't really click it. If I want to click it, I go back and I open up my project, right? But this is sort of like a score sheet, right? So it's going to tell you some numbers and some metrics up top. It's going to tell you what's going on, right? And over time, we think that there's value in having this as a dashboard that helps both our side and your side, the project stakeholder side, actually see what's going on a project, right? And so they're able to see a lot more of what's going on with the Department of Buildings. We know that the project team on the customer side knows their project scope, but this is a tool that's going to help all of us see what's happening at the Department of Buildings on that project. And so you can see all those fields that we talked about. You're going to be able to navigate to those things from here, right? You're also going to see metrics. You're going to see volume numbers. You're going to see a number of things. Is this useful on day one? I'm not entirely sure, but I believe that this gives all of us, including everyone on the development side, room to dream, right? What do I need to see here? And that's a really good question. And depending on who you are as a project stakeholder, you might have different things you would sort of hopefully see here. Now, for a lot of folks on this team, consulting teams who service developer clients, we recognize that you have your own systems that are pretty slick. And we get that. Your systems are probably a lot slicker than ours. And we get that. But we also feel that there's a benefit where we share information together at the project level, and where we all know what's going on, including the development team, the property owners. More transparency, more knowledge, more information might generate more questions, but it also generates more answers. It generates more clarity. And it helps us all get on the same page. It helps us all see the big picture. It helps us all see that damn egg. And it helps us all keep it on top of the wall. I am sick and tired of having to be all the king's horses and all the king's men. I'm tired of the phone ringing. What's going on with this job? I don't know. And we spend the next 2 hours calling you, running around, trying to put all the pieces of that egg together so that we have enough context to be able to answer the damn question or solve the damn problem. You see your project, we don't. This is not oversight. This is not someone looking over your shoulder. This is about you guys being able to share the information with this department so that this department is better, so that this department is more efficient, so that this department agrees with your assumptions before you start, so that we can be proactive, and so that we have fewer surprises. That's what this is about. What else were we going to talk about? I can't remember, Noelia.
The only thing I want to show, which we didn't highlight, what should they should expect to see once the project is better approved.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. We talked about the workflow of getting into the project, into the major projects program. That's what this has all been about, right? This is your path in, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 checks, right? So remember when I said we have our consultation meeting, we say, all right, knock yourself out, right? Start filing, right? There's an interesting little component, right? Are you in the major projects program yet? Nope. Did you have to pay a fee to have this meeting? Nope. Did you have to pay a fee to engage with our project advocate in the beginning before you do any of this stuff and blah, blah, blah to create this project scope? Nope. But when we say okay to file, welcome to the program, you're going, when the next time you log into that project, you go into your dashboard, right? This question is going to come up, and it's going to ask, accept or decline. And what is my eyes are. This project is invited to participate in the major project development, the major project, blah, blah, blah. To enroll in the program, go read the rule and the other thing. Do you accept? So if you click accept, can you click accept? Guess what? Now you pay the fee. You pay the fee that was established through the promulgation, the CAPA promulgation of that rule through a public process. If you say yes, it takes and you're able to make that payment. Why are you making that payment? This department, for many, many years, each and every one of us that comes into this department, in very short measure, we are architects, we are engineers, we are attorneys, we are tradespeople, we are plumbers, we are electricians, we are operations experts, we are business analysts. But every one of us who comes to work at the department, in very short measure, becomes an expert at one specific function of the department. Plan examiners get very, very good at plan exam. They get very, very good and very efficient at plan exam. And they get to know code and zoning to a level that most professionals don't know because of the sheer volume and iteration. And when they're done plan examining you, they move on to the next plan examination. But when they approve your application, they don't stay with you until you file an amendment. But they perform plan exam. That's what they do. But they don't know much else about how the department functions or what else you on your side, how you engage with the department. Inspectors is the same thing. They have a route sheet, and they inspect, and through sheer volume and sheer experience and knowledge and will, they become experts in that role, much more expert in that role than they ever were in their former professions. But again, they don't really know what plan examiners do, and they don't always know how it works, but you all do. Why? Because you and your consultants and you and your clients and you and your project engage with this department at every step along the way. For those of you who support developer clients through these projects, you all know more about the Department of Buildings than I do. And that's a very, very impressive feat. And why do you know that? Because, yeah, you're experts in your own right, but as far as DOB is concerned, you're more than just an expert. You're a generalist. You know everything. You know how to pre-file, you know how to file, you know how to plan examine, you know how to get permits, you know how to deal with violations, you know how to get development inspections, you know how to get inspection sign-offs, you know how to get a TCO, you know how to get a final, and you know how to do everything in between. Absolutely everything and everything. No one at the Department of Buildings knows how to do that. Guess what? These 12 project advocates are here to partner with you on your projects, and they will be with you through the life of this project. And these 12 project advocates are not new people. They are names you will recognize. They are plan examiners. They are inspectors. They are intergov people. They are external affairs people. They are excellent communicators. They are project managers, if you can think of it that way. They are people who tend to pick up the phone. They are people who want to talk to you. That's what we need. I don't even know why I went down that line of reasoning. Why did I go down that line of reasoning? What were we talking about? This is embarrassing.
No, you were just the life of the project. That's where you're at.
That was the life of the project. That's where we're at. And what last components were we going to talk about here?
Kind of the point that they can add an amendment.
Oh, got it. Let's go back to that arrow. The PowerPoint slide with the stupid arrow. Okay, so if you just go back one. Yeah. So development helped you, had a consultation, and you filed your stuff, and then you were kind of on your own. Go forward again. So if you look over the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't have to be 4, right? It could be more than 4. It could be any number of them, right? That's at the project level. That's about engaging with the Department of Buildings at the project level. That's the project stakeholders engaging with the Department of Buildings at the project level, right? Then we've all, I call them the bookends. If you take 1 and 4, that's Ekaterina Segal and Rami and Damien and myself at the front end, but with a lot better information and more of a tool that we can all play off. And number 4 on the back end, well, that was the high-rise inspections program. Is it going to be new and cool? Yeah, of course. Are we building that into part of the major projects program? Yes. What does that mean? Does that mean that the high-rise development inspections program is no more? Not really. For folks who are in the high-rise development, high-rise program right now, and I think there's about 300 of them, you're in and good for you. Carry on, and we're going to keep supporting it. And yes, it'll still be Avant Cespedes. We're going to carry those projects, right? You're not necessarily in the major projects program, but we'll carry those. We'll carry the high-rise program. But for new projects that want into the high-rise program, you get into the high-rise inspections program through the major projects program. So you can see how these are coming together now, right? So through attrition, those previous players will find their way out of the system as they, close out projects. But those are those 2 bookends. But you can engage with the department at the project level. Major projects players can engage with us at the project level throughout the lifespan of the project. So I need to make a change to my project scope because we all know it changes. The developer, the client, just bought the property next door and the zoning lot just got bigger. Oh my. I might have to make all kinds of changes. I might actually be knocking that thing down. That might have actually been the plan from the get-go. And you might have even told us that from the get-go, but it might be a surprise too. So now I'm mid-flight. I need to change my project scope. I need to get someone's attention. Now, you have your project advocate all day long, right? And you're talking to your project advocate. You don't just have to use this tool. We want you talking to the project advocate. We want you emailing. We want a good line of communication, just like Ekaterina does with folks who've worked with her, and just like Yvonne does with folks who've worked with her. There is an open line of communication. We all know it's a very useful, productive line of communication. We are adding an army worth of resources to that, right? So we are opening the lines of communication. But you often hear from Yvonne or from Ekaterina, can you give me A, B, or C, right? Well, now we have a project dashboard and a scope management tool that says, oh, I see. Okay, let me give you an example. The project will remain nameless, but its initials are 270 Park. we got foundation approval, early foundation approval. I don't have a new building approval yet. Why? Because I'm at city planning to get a special permit or a certification for, let's say, a POPs or something. And I can't approve my NB because I have a floor area bonus that I need that city planning action on, and I'm not done yet. But I'm happily moving away on my foundation work because I'm in the major projects program. No, they're not, but because we just turned it on. But I'm in the major projects program, and we've been cooking with gas. And guess what? I'm running out of work. Oh my gosh. I'm running out of work, and we're pedaling as fast as we can with city planning, right? And Scott's been on the phone with city planning. We're trying to figure out how close we are and blah, 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 right? And we got a problem. We need to keep this job site moving. So someone on the development side has a really good idea. Hey, can I break out a portion of my superstructure and come out of the hole about 50 feet? But just that. Yeah. Does the project advocate say yes to you? Not necessarily, because that's the kind of thing that we would typically say no, right? But you have good context. You have reasons for this, and you have ideas, that's going to make this work safe and clear, and you want to talk about that with the department. You know the department would otherwise say no. If you just filed that job, you'd probably get a big old objection and say, forget it. Take your NB permit, right? Stop banging your head against the damn department and let us know what you want to do. That's what this tool is for, right? Yes, you have a project advocate. Project advocate says, let me talk with them. So they're talking with me, right? Let's get on the phone. Okay. But project advocate's also going to say, look, I don't want to forget about this. So add it to your project scope. So you can do that from your dashboard. You're going to do an amendment to a project. Click. This is any time through the life of your project. You guys can play with this thing. That's the whole point. Can you say yes? Right? And so now you might want to add a bin. You might want to add a job to a bin. My dev bin, my new building, I want to add now a breakout. Scott says to you, why can't you file it as a subsequent on the new building application? I can't because of A, B, and C. Okay, fine. So go ahead, add it here, right? Have you filed it yet? No, because we were talking with the advocate and we thought we would better talk with you first and make sure we're getting it right. Okay, cool. So go ahead, add it here the same way you normally would, right? Just like you did in the beginning, right? And then when you go ahead and file it, you're going to connect the dots. And our advocate's going to help you connect the dots, right? And then we now know, the system now knows it's part of the project, so it doesn't get assigned in Staten Island. Got it? It goes to the same team. We keep it together. This thing is a laundry basket. Let's not drop the egg. So with your help, believe it or not, you guys can, this is actually a tool for you to use. And that's what I see it as, right? But it's also a tool for us to use. This is a shared platform. This is a leveling of the playing field. This gives you the opportunity to tell us what you're going to do before you do it so that you can test your assumptions, you can get answers, you can get guidance on it, not X, but how about Y? That works just fine, says the owner of this project. Let's do that. Everyone has their marching orders, and then when you play out those marching orders on your job site, with your financiers, all the stuff that you have to do on your side, but when you have to do something on the DOB side, we know it's coming, and here it comes, and we catch the ball. It's 12:12. I went a little over.
Yeah.
What else do I want to mention? Do you need to mention appointments within this system? But look, I think we already did that. Okay. So that's it for my. That's it for me. This system is live. You can use it today. You can play with it. Go ahead, play with it. Read the rule, please. See what scopes are eligible for this program. You will notice when you read the rule and you see what scopes are eligible, you might have a project that might not meet eligibility level 1, 2, and 3. You'll notice eligibility level 4 is there, right? A project can be added at discretion. The system just went live. I think I might have a couple of hiccups on that. But if you have a project that you feel meets the complexity of this program and you and your client want to be in on this program, you can use this tool to take a shot at it. If on day one we have to pull a couple of strings in the back end to get you in the door, we can and will. And that, we'll make sure that this moves smoothly. What else was I going to say? Let's go to questions. Now, I have not been monitoring chat.